Good evening and welcome to Estuary TV News. I'm Emma Lingard. Tonight, my newspaper reviewer is of course no stranger to you all. It's Hot Topic presenter Hugh Riches. But first, it's over to James Dunn for a roundup of the news headlines.
Hello, in the headlines today, MPs speak out about certain areas being left out of plans to provide extra funding for schools, and a Scunthorpe lad rubs shoulders with Formula One superstars. MPs are outraged after the government left Hull and North East Lincolnshire out of plans to give an extra £350 million to schools from 2015. A change in the per-pupil funding formula will mean an extra £3.7 million for Lincolnshire, £3.5 million for North Lincolnshire and £500,000 in East Riding. But deprived North East Lincolnshire and Kingston upon Hull will get nothing at all, which shocked Hull MP Diana Johnson and Great Grimsby's Austin Mitchell. In GCSE performance tables last year, Hull placed 145th out of 151 local authorities, and North East Lincolnshire was 106th. Johnson said it was another example of how Hull is not getting a fair funding deal from the coalition, while the more prosperous areas in the south have most to gain. Austin Mitchell urged the government to reconsider the plan, which is still in consultation phase, as low achievement areas need more help to raise standards. St Andrew's Hospice in Grimsby has unveiled plans for a £6.5 million investment to transform the services they provide for thousands of patients across northern Lincolnshire. The centre, which provides 24/7 care, will be given a new building and new facilities over the next 18 months, increasing patient capacity as well as creating a health and wellbeing centre. The charity is now looking for help from the local community to raise the last £2 million they need to see the project through to completion.
We've been looking at this project now for 7 years. We've managed to, through good housekeeping and the support of our supporters, we've managed to ring fence just around £3 million. And we've also got, as I said earlier on, the NHS England fund, which is just short of £1 million, which has been pledged to us. And so the whole project's going to cost about £6.5 million, but we already have £4 million of that. And so we're looking to the local community to help us raise that final £2.5 million. It's a hell of a lot of money, but I'm sure with the support we get from local people that we will do it and achieve it.
The slippery floor at Cleethorpes Swimming Pool will now be relaid, but at no cost to the local council. 13 people have slipped on the floor when it reopened after a £2.5 million refurbishment, so operators Links Inspire were forced to close the pool at the beginning of March. Tests have since revealed that excessive resin used on the floor to reduce its slip resistance, and the pool will be closed for another 2 weeks while it's relayed. North East Lincolnshire Council's portfolio holder for leisure Mick Burnett has apologised for disruption caused to customers of the pool. But the work will now be done, but at no cost to the council. And Links Inspire have put monthly gym payments on hold and will refund any pre-booked swimming classes. 10 jobs in West Lindsey will be created thanks to the £160,000 of funding to help get people online. Computer equipment will be installed at various locations across the county, and the European Social Fund grant will pay for 10 new staff and training for 35 volunteer digital champions. If you would like to help others get online or host IT equipment in your community, call Francis Roddis on 01427 676 512 or visit West Lindsey Council's website for more details. The A18 is to close for maintenance this Wednesday between Laceby Top and Ludborough. It will be closed for 24 hours from midnight tomorrow for grass cutting, sign repairs and road maintenance, and a diversion will be in place using the A16, A1243 and A46. One of the last street shrines to remember men in Hull who served in the First World War has been restored and will be unveiled today. The Sharp Street Roll of Honour is one of few surviving shrines listing men who served and died in World War I and is nearly 100 years old. It will be unveiled and rededicated after an extensive restoration at 10:45 this morning. East Riding Council is urging businesses to take precautions so they can continue to operate after emergencies like the tidal surge. Business Continuity Week starts today, so between now and Friday, online advice will be available for free at www.letsgetready.org.uk. A former North Lindsey College student has got a job as paint technician with the Mercedes-Benz F1 team, working on Lewis Hamilton's car. 23-year-old Josh Dixon applied for the job in the final year of his apprenticeship, in which he worked for Stoneacre in Scunthorpe, and beat 20 other shortlisted applicants. Painting designs to an exact specification. Josh regularly rubs shoulders with team boss Ross Brawn and sees the drivers around once a month. He described the first time he saw former world champion Hamilton walk into the paint shop as surreal. That's all from me. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, James. Well, tonight we welcome back Hugh Riches to look through the week's paper. So, Hugh, what has actually caught your eye?
Well, the first story that I noticed was the crazy paving in Grimsby, the famous herringbone Harris tweed effect that has gone down in certain parts of the centre of Grimsby town. And it was always controversial, but now it's going to have to come up again because the ground underneath is rising and the cobbles are coming out of the ground. They're in accord.
And of course, this is it. At the time, obviously there's been the issues with the disruption to the shops because of all the road repairs and the sending traffic around different ways and the upheaval of the bus station. And of course, once it was laid, pedestrians and motorists disliked the look of it, didn't they?
There were all sorts of complaints. Pedestrians disliked it. Apparently, there were reports that it was causing epileptic fits. The dark stones looked like holes and people were tripping over as they stopped walking in them, and it all cost £6 million.
And that's the thing, isn't it? And now I suppose the fact that it has got to be taken up in places and relayed, so that's more disruption. You can understand why. I mean, I know it says here, council admits controversial blocks in top town's shared space will have to be relayed. It's only been a few months, hasn't it, since this was all done?
It's only a few weeks, really, and it's already broken. And on Hot Topic, I've had people coming on several times saying that this is a wonderful thing and we mustn't be frightened of change. Well, I'm not so sure that the changes that don't work are such good ones to have around. It's been a bit of a farce.
It has, and I suppose as well, I mean, I've seen a few comments on Facebook from people saying that they don't really like the colour scheme because it doesn't really go with the Victorian red brick buildings that are in that vicinity either. So there's a lot of backlash, but I suppose again councils are always going to get backlash, aren't they, from people at the end of the day?
They are if the streets start peeling up off the ground, yeah.
Which I suppose I'm just going to jump here to another story you've chosen, which of course the Cleethorpes swimming pool.
Yes.
Which is another council project, sadly. Just talk us through what has happened.
Well, there's been a refurbishment at Cleethorpes Leisure Centre at the swimming pool there, and the floor around the pool, which we're all used to when you've gone to public swimming pools, it's got that sort of grainy effect so that you don't slip on it. Yeah. This floor is a floor that you slip on, and they're going to have to resurface the floor there. This perhaps isn't such a dreadful thing for the council because the council won't be paying for the reworking, for the repair that needs to be done. That's the engineer's fault, and they've taken responsibility for it.
But again, it's been closed for a while for refurbishment, and then it reopens, and this happens, which I suppose well, it's not looking good so far, is it, in the papers for North East Lincolnshire Council?
North East Lincolnshire Council, nor for swimming pools in North East Lincolnshire, because the whole ongoing saga of the Scartho baths is another one that always takes our attention. It's very difficult to know where to go for a dip if you live in this place.
It is really, isn't it? Maybe the sea is that we've got Blue Flag Awards. So maybe that's the way to go.
Right, it's dependable, yes.
Now your next story is in the Hull Daily Mail.
Yes,
what have you got there?
Have a look at this one. This is parents are more willing to pay a fine to the school for taking their child out of school to go on holiday during term time than they are to pay the extra fares that it costs to go on holiday during school holiday time. They're paying about £60, they're paying precisely £60 per child for taking a child away from school during term time, and that still works out cheaper than the extra they have to pay, the premium they pay for going on holiday during the holidays.
You can, I mean, I know you're not a parent yet, Hugh, but I mean, you know, I have a son, and yeah, it is expensive, and you do think, why should families be penalised, and I suppose everybody else, during those holiday seasons when it's traditionally, you know, the school holiday time?
Well, supply and demand at school holidays. That's when more people want to go on holiday, and so the demand is higher. Those who offering the supply can raise the prices.
Oh, of course, got an answer. Have you?
Well, that's the reason. I'm not saying it makes me love the airlines or the holiday companies because of that. But it is difficult if you're limited. I mean, maybe even if you work at a school, or a college, you're a bit limited by your dates, which can be frustrating.
That is the thing, isn't it? Because it's not. It's anybody that works in the education system that, I suppose, isn't it? But it says here, don't find the parents, hit the travel companies.
Well,
do you think
you could tell them no, you've got to charge less money for goods for which people are willing to pay more? Yeah, I think that's very fair. But the great thing is, perhaps going away, if it's the right sort of holiday, that could be much more educational than sitting there, constantly studying equilateral equations and oxbow bloody lakes.
That's it. It's that balance. I mean, like they say, parents are willing to take that fine rather than pay a lot more, aren't they?
And if you're taking your child around the Louvre or the Acropolis or the Moscow Kremlin, then that's probably a lot more educational than sitting down at school.
Culture, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, the next story, got Scunthorpe Telegraph, the Lincolnshire Lakes.
Yes.
This is the housing development,
isn't
it?
This is a large housing development planned between Scunthorpe and the River Trent to build a lot of homes.
Yep.
But it's been delayed because of fears of flooding. And the big tidal surge in December, of course, made everybody much more aware of that.
Yeah.
And if these houses are to go up in an area that's vulnerable to flooding, can they get insurance? Can they be guaranteed to be safe? And so it's not necessarily going to go ahead because it could be underwater. And
this is it. Obviously, now, for years, people have always talked about building on floodplains. And like you say, in light of the extremely bad weather we've had and what we've experienced, obviously in Somerset and the southwest, all of a sudden now, this is a scary thing now, isn't it? People don't want, I suppose, houses on a floodplain, do they?
Well, in some ways, the scare in December might have been quite useful. It was the weather giving us a bit of a nudge and saying, are you sure you want to do this? Think again, have a second thought. And it is climatologists would suggest it's going to be more frequent.
And of course here, obviously Andrew Percy, the MP for Brigham Gaul, is suggesting that the scheme be delayed until I see that the results of the Humber flood strategy announcement are known about. So that's
Absolutely, and Andrew Percy will be appearing in a couple of weeks on Hot Topic, and we'll be discussing that then.
Okay, this is it, flooding. And this is it, affects people, especially with us living along the coastline and the amount of rivers that come in. That's a key thing, isn't it? Right, moving on then, Hugh. The other one you've got just at Tapsell on Russia. What caught your eye in the Louth leader there?
Well, Peter Tapsell, Member of Parliament for Louth and Horncastle, a father of the House, longest-serving Member of Parliament, was saying that if we resist Russia's actions in the Ukraine, then we're causing the Third World War.
Right.
He says that every Russian knows that the capture of Crimea and Sevastopol was the greatest achievement of Catherine the Great. That's why she's called Great. Now, perhaps he remembers this more clearly than the rest of us do.
Oh.
He's been around for a while. But as a comment on international affairs, coming from Louth, of course,
yes, yeah.
Then it's a little bit naive to be going back to the 18th century.
Right, we're going to have to leave it there, Hugh, but thank you so much for coming in to review those papers. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of another programme. Join us again when tomorrow we'll be talking to the Reverend Andrew Dodd from Grimsby Minster about Easter, and our special guest on Wednesday is Grimsby-born composer Patrick Hawes, who'll be talking about his latest piece of music called The Angel of Mons. And don't forget, we want to hear your stories, so email us news@estuary.tv or drop us a line via Twitter or via our Facebook page, or pick up the phone and give us a call on 01472 315 561. Until next time, goodbye.